This is John-Henry Westen. It is a historic day for Canada. We have seen the ousting of Conservative leader Erin O'Toole with some incredible activities, all thanks to the convoy of Truckers for Freedom. We're going to have with us Kennedy Hall, our Canadian correspondent who covers a lot of politics for us. Stay tuned for this. Kennedy, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me on.
Let's begin as we always do at the sign of the cross. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen. An awesome day for Canada. We've seen some incredible things, but tell us the latest news, if you would, Kennedy.
Sure. Erin O'Toole has been ousted from the Conservative Party of Canada, which was very surprising. It's taken 2 years for them to sort of get their senses. But, you know, it was actually it was done quite manfully. You know, it wasn't some swishy result. It was 73 to 39 or something like that. It was pretty strong, which means it's pretty much double the amount of people in the party are sick of them. And they're doubling down on their support of the truckers, patriotism, what Stephen Harper called old stock Canadians, with that famous phrase. And it's good. I mean, we didn't think a lot of positive things were coming, but this thing has really turned it around for us, it seems, or at least it's starting to.
It's an incredible thing. We've seen the truckers gain momentum all across the country. Hundreds of thousands, even millions of Canadians coming out to support them in unbelievable ways. They've already seen victories. We saw Quebec's tax on the unvaccinated fall. We saw the Saskatchewan premier come out and say, no, we're not going down the passport route. We've seen now, it seems that Kenny is going to go, the Alberta premier Kenny is going to go in the same direction. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so across the country, the premiers are, if they're already conservative, so-called, they're sort of acting like it finally. Scott Moe is the most notable out in Saskatchewan. And, you know, he directly he identified the trucker movement, the Freedom Convoy, as a reason why he's going to support the people, which is nice to see. I mean, I wrote a piece about him a couple months back saying he was one of the biggest gaslighters of Canadians, because he really was. I mean, we have to hold these leaders to account. But maybe he's not without conscience. I don't know. I can't read the man's soul. It seems like, you know, he's a Western Canadian, and he realizes that the hypnosis got them pretty strongly, and it's time to sort of act like a good person again. Jason Kenney in Alberta, he's very squishy. He's kind of in between. He's in between a Marxist and a red Tory, let's put it that way, which isn't saying much. But at least he's come out and sort of said, well, we'll start lifting things, you know. But of course they say it's because of the vaccine, et cetera. But it wasn't because of the vaccine a week ago, right? What's changed since then? It's the trucker protest. They could have said that a week ago, but they're saying it now. Quebec dropping the tax on the unvaxxed is a big deal. A win is a win. Politics is a game of football. Everyone was going to be in their end zone getting scored on relentlessly with that thing. At least they're now on the 1 yard line, if you put it that way. And they're not going to charge you for not taking certain medications. And I suspect even in Ontario, as much as Doug Ford has been really egregious, even his top doctor is saying we've got to live with the virus and all that kind of stuff. And vaccines aren't a silver bullet. So it looks like the tide is changing even in the provinces.
An incredible thing, thanks in large part to these truckers who have sacrificed themselves, like the men of war of old have taken it upon themselves to fight for freedom, not only for themselves, but for all Canadians. An incredible thing. Let's unpack a little bit the Erin O'Toole saga, because, I mean, this man came to the leadership of the Conservative Party as a radical extremist, pro-abortion, pro-LGBT, fake conservative, and yet was leading the Conservative Party, and everyone was shut up about it for the longest time. Tell us about him.
Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier before we came on this call, and you know, for those who are not aware of the political history of the last, let's say, 30 years in Canada, you got to look up something called the Reform Party. And the Reform Party was a grassroots Western initiative, very socially conservative. One of the greatest clips you'll ever see from the House of Commons is Daryl Stinson challenging someone who called him a racist to a fist fight. And I know it's good old Canadian cowboy politics. that was where Stephen Harper started. It was where Stockwell Day was. It was where these true evangelical, Preston Manning, very Christian folks who were very good for the country. They really were. They represented what most Canadians actually believe, which was great. And they really forced the hand of real conservatism in the country that flourished under Stephen Harper. Along came Justin Trudeau, and we've all known the saga of that. I mean, his was more of it was almost like the return of the boy band superstar running for prime minister. It was almost a celebrity election. And, they whipped up a bunch of lies about Harper and they sort of stole it from a media perspective. They really did. Anyway, after they lost with Harper, they went with Andrew Scheer, who was, for all intents and purposes, quite socially conservative, Catholic, pro-life, all those sorts of things. But I think they thought he was going to be their sort of, let's say, fresh look, making social conservatism look cool. And it didn't quite work. Personally, I don't think it was his views that were the problem. I just think, you don't have to try to make social conservatism look cool. It's either true or it's false. When you try to make it look cool, I think it makes it kind of cringe. People are okay with an older Christian guy saying older Christian guy things. They just expect that, And then I think they tried to sort of veer away from that in general with Erin O'Toole and say, we'll have this red Tory, this sort of centrist fella. And it's just ticked everybody off. All he had to do, and Anthony Furey, one of the best journalists, I think, left in legacy media in Canada, one of the only honest ones, in my opinion, at the Toronto Sun. He tweeted today, all Erin O'Toole had to say was that he was against lockdowns and the carbon tax. And he just couldn't do that. And even for a lot of these conservatives who are socially kind of centrist, they're still apathetic towards abortion, those sort of things. They're still not completely morally bankrupt. And I think they can understand, even with their problems, that mandating people to take medications they don't want to and penalizing them for that is probably not a good look.
All right, let's unpack the last few days because I think there's a very interesting lead up. Let's take a look, first of all, at the video that I think sort of let it out. It was a press conference, it was like a press scrum where Pierre Poilievre, one of the probably the best spoken conservative politician, really quick with his answers, was asked, what about these elements, these racist elements or extremist elements among the truckers? What do you make of those? And his response is beautiful. Let's take a look.
So I think that it is possible to hold individually responsible anyone who says or does anything unacceptable, while showing support for the hardworking, law-abiding, peace-loving truckers who are fighting for their freedom and their livelihoods, and on whom we have depended for our very existence over the last 2 years.
Now, isn't that something? He puts it right back on the reporters. He actually, is telling them that, yes, hold those accountable who say unacceptable things, but don't paint everyone that way. That's not what we did for the CBC. He said in an earlier part of that clip we couldn't show, but really great stuff. But from there, it was really weird because we got word from back channels in Parliament that O'Toole wanted to sanction him. Take the story away from there.
Yeah, it's funny when I watched that clip from Poilievre, the libertarian-minded guy in me says, "Don't apologize for anyone's stupid behavior," but I understand he has to do it. We condemn X, Y, and Z, and I get the political game, but he's exactly correct that, listen, if I used to be a bouncer, okay, when I was a young man, and if there was 50 fights at this protest, that would have still been a peaceful protest compared to your average night in a nightclub or something in a major Canadian city. We're talking about tens of thousands of people getting together who are peace-loving, but red-blooded and angry at what's happened. I mean, the fact that there hasn't been any violence is unbelievable. Yeah. If there was some violence...
Yeah, I know. I've been walking through the streets there for the last few days, seeing the joy, and it's freezing bloody cold. As soon as the sun goes down, it is like totally frigid. And people are there, they're supporting one another, they're braving the cold, and they're so thankful. There's so many tears of joy and thanksgiving. It's beautiful to behold. They're cleaning up after themselves, they're picking up the garbage, it's an incredible scene. To paint this as problematic that way, it's just nuts for anybody who knows anything about large demonstrations.
Yeah,
But
and if you've ever been to a major protest, there's always a Nazi flag. There's always a hammer and sickle. I used to go to the University of Ottawa. Protesting was like a major for some students, you know, and there was always a hammer and sickle flag or something. It's just what provocateurs do, and they always try to do it. The fact that they've only found one speaks to just how good-hearted these people actually are.
one of the things I thought was really neat is we finally started to hear some Conservatives in the House of Commons calling out Trudeau in a way that we thought they should have from the beginning. Check out this clip. This is Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke MP Cheryl Gallant. Have a look.
The Prime Minister's arbitrary mandates are fanning the flames of inflation. So the truckers and supporters are here on Parliament Hill to take a stand. All this misery and the Prime Minister who donned blackface and groped a reporter called those who disagree with him racists and misogynists. He and this government must end their mandates and understand that a Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian.
Isn't that awesome, Kennedy? What do you make of that?
Well, I can't believe it's taken them so long to hammer Trudeau with the blackface thing. I know they kind of brought it up, but listen, the problem with these liberals was one, that they're illiberal. Okay, you know, I'm not a liberal, but if they were at least classically liberal, we could try to live and get along and not have to tell each other what to do all the time, which would be an improvement. The problem with them is that they're Puritans. They're actually they're politically religious zealots. Even this idea that Trudeau says you hold unacceptable views, according to who? You know, and so if you're going to play the, this political Puritan game, then you need to be called out on that. And if you have any sins in your past, if you're going to use them against other people, then with all due respect, sir, I'm going to show you, I'm putting that blackface on a billboard until you resign.
And from Conservative commentators all over the world calling out Trudeau. Tucker did it, and Joe Rogan did it, and everybody did it, because he has done blackface, as they said, so many times he can't remember how many times, because he was trying to conceal it.
He smokes too much pot.
Just unbelievable. For him to say they're misogynist while having groped a woman, as Cheryl points out. And then one other thing was really beautiful. These truckers are so varied. They're varied across not only the political spectrum, they're varied across the racial spectrum. Check this out. This is a Sikh trucker being asked about, sitting there with the truckers in protest, with his kids, by the way, in the cab of the truck, being asked about racism and if he saw any. Check this out.
And, you know, there's been a lot has been going around from different media outlets, even different political leaders are pushing a narrative that's saying race baiting. There's, in fact, there's a lot of name calling, even white supremacy. What has been your take on this whole convoy?
Not a single sign, not a single guy I met here with racism or something like that, or white supremacy.
Yeah.
It's all about everybody's hugging, kissing. Look at that money here. Everybody's doing that, and gifts and everything.
Yes.
It's just incredible. Just like Cheryl Gallant said, Canadian is Canadian is Canadian. Here's this trucker telling us he's so proud to be Canadian. And the only racism he might have seen is maybe Justin Trudeau in his house. What do you make of that?
It's the bigotry of low expectations, right, from the left. And we have a video when I was at the in London at the Flying J at one of the truck stops there, and I interviewed a fella. His name was Nuggin. He's Middle Eastern of some sort, and he's vaccinated. And he just said, "I'm a grown up. You're a grown up. I don't tell grown ups what to do with their medication. This is not about vaccine. Obviously, we believe there are problems with the vaccinations, but the logic of you make your own informed health decisions is sacrosanct. The whole thing is so lost on me. How someone can believe that they can make a judgment about you based on whether or not you want to take Tylenol or Advil. Like, it's just absolutely remarkable. And for someone to say, you don't take Tylenol, you must be anti-pain management. Maybe for me, Tylenol just hurts my stomach and I would prefer to take a natural remedy or whatever, and this is, anyway, it's just, it's really showing that the hypocrisy of leftism is just finally being shown for what it is, I think.
Yeah, yeah. An awesome day for Canada, an amazing validation of the truckers and what they're doing. Hopefully a great encouragement for them to stay and to work till all this is gone, and maybe for more truckers to join them. Thank you, Kennedy, for being with us in this episode of the John-Henry Westen Show.
My pleasure.
And please, everyone, pray right now for Canada, for the truckers, that this movement of freedom may not only cure the nonsense going on in Canada, that these copycat movements of truckers all around the world also have the same effect. May God bless you all. We'll see you next time.